Hi everybody, today we're going to have a look at keeping warm in a California. So you might have checked out a video we did a little while ago on keeping cool in California, and we said at the time we're going to do one on keeping warm. So this is going to cover the California Ocean behind me here, but all the way down to the beach as well. So we'll talk about the differences between those. So I'm not going to show you how these things work, so how the heating system works. We've got a separate video on that, and we'll put the link somewhere above so you can have a look at that, how that all works. It's in there, but it's more about things you can do to improve how warm it is in the vehicle, keeping things warm in there as well, talking about things that you can buy, for example, for upstairs if you want to, and then keep the heatings in there as well. So we're getting to the end of the camping season. People might be thinking about their last trip away, or the last couple of trips away for the year. Obviously the weather outside is getting substantially colder. Let's have a look at a few things that you could get or could help out with the heating system to keep the vehicle warm. And obviously we'll cover those differences between the two as well. So first thing for keeping warm, and probably the obvious one as well, is the roof upstairs. So if you've actually got the pop-up roof open, so that's one way in which heat does obviously release from the vehicle. We've got things like our air vents up at the top that's up here to allow heat obviously from the vehicle to come out, and obviously you've got your side ones as well which would be closed and your front one fully closed. So if it's really, really cold, obviously having the roof down is going to make a huge difference on how much heat is retained actually in the vehicle and to keep that vehicle warm. So I suppose that's number one thing really, is if it's really cold, obviously you can put the roof down, but at the same time you probably need that roof up, for example, if you're sleeping up there and things like that, depending on what the temperature is that's on there. You can actually get thermal things to go inside the roof as well as on the outside of the roof. Now we talked a bit a while before about you can get covers that go over the roof section, so if you can imagine you're standing here now, you'd have a canvas or a material over the roof. That's really good obviously if you're in really, really bad weather, and it protects the top of the roof and over from in there. There is actually a thermal one which you can get which goes inside the vehicle, and again that's basically to make it a lot nicer inside and retains the heat into the vehicle. I'm not sure which is best. I'm sure you guys out there will be able to tell us which one you prefer, whether you prefer one that goes on the outside or whether you prefer the one that comes on the inside to retain that heat within the vehicle. Let us know in the comment box below what you think about that. Another good way as well is if you're actually downstairs, you want to separate these two up. Rather than having an actual roof bed all the way in the ceiling like we have on this one here, you could have the roof actually down in its flat position that's here. You can get boards, it's not something Volkswagen do, that actually fill the hatch over the side of it that's on there, or pull the hatch over, and obviously while you're in your daytime area, for example, it's in here, keep it nice and warm, it's in there, and obviously your bed area a little bit colder than above you that's there for when you actually get in at night, and just keeps those two areas separated, so again you can reduce that expansion of air. Let's jump in for a second, we can talk a bit more when we get inside. Now everybody knows obviously heat rises, so within the vehicle that's why things like your heating vents are obviously down below at the bottom of the vehicle, so that pumps hot air into the vehicle if you've got an ocean for example, or if you've got a coast which has the heating system in there, or if you've got a beach and you've upgraded for the heating system, so that's going to push that air into the cabin from on here, and then obviously that's going to rise. And if you've got the roof up like it is now, for example, if we've got the front door open here on the panoramic roof, that heat's just going to go straight out. So to keep the vehicle warm obviously you want to keep that heat in and keep it as close as you can, which is what we were talking about with the roof down, for example. That will be one way of doing that. The other side of it as well is things like your blinds, for example. Obviously from your windows it's on here on the side of the vehicle, and you have got double glazing on the rear ones, but these aren't double glazed, or your front ones aren't double glazed, and you can lose a lot of heat out of the windows from the side of the vehicle. So putting things like this across, having these windows down from on here will retain heat as well. Do appreciate obviously you're probably not going to want them down because you want to look at the view, but you can minimise them by doing it on some windows and not on others. So you've still got some light coming into the vehicle, but some of the other ones are down, and again to keep that heat within the vehicle before you move off. Now we talked about front windscreens, for example, and covers to go over the windscreens for keeping your vehicle cool, and the same applies for keeping your vehicle warm. So these covers can be done on the same basis because obviously when it's keeping your vehicle cool, they're reflecting the heat from them, but obviously they have thermal properties as well, so they'll keep the heat in the vehicle, and so obviously it keeps that vehicle a lot warmer, and they can go on the outside of the vehicle. You also tend to find as well is if you've got the interior blinds done, say on this particular vehicle, on the Ocean vehicle that's there, and that again creates that barrier between the glass and your material. Very, very similar to the way in which curtains would work in your house. It's no different from on there. That's one of the reasons why most houses, your radiators are below your windows that's in there, and it's just obviously locks in that heat and from that cold area going to the warm area within the vehicle, that keeps things nice and warm inside. Now, if you've got a beach and you've got no actual heater on board with the vehicle, there are a few more options we talked about from on there. So if you're on a campsite, which for this time of year I think a lot of people probably would be, because you've got those facilities that's there with it as well. So you probably have your electrical hookup that'll give you your power supply. Obviously you've got them on the Ocean ones and here on the side. On the beach you'd have your power supply and your sockets in there. So a little portable heater is a good idea, and again that's something you want to keep low to the ground. So it does the same thing as the standard heater does. Obviously going to put hot air and blow it into the vehicle. They're very effective. You can just turn them on as and when you need them. Those can be very inexpensive if you've got that type of vehicle, but can give a very quick boost to heat to put it in and keep the vehicle warm. And then we've obviously got the things of keeping yourself warm as well. Like for example your sleeping bag, where in the summer you might for example have sheets and have a duvet. On the bottom of that obviously then what that is actually you're lying on. So if you're lying on the mattress or you're lying on the bed section that's on here, if this gets cold, you've only got a sheet for example or something like that over this rather than a topper. That, for example, could then radiate coolness coming through for sleeping that's on there. You might consider having a sleeping bag, using a sleeping bag as it gets colder. The sleeping bag has insulation on the bottom and on the top because it cocoons you in that. I suppose you could use the same thing as with something like a mattress topper, would do the same kind of thing as well. That would obviously just give you a little bit more warmth throughout as well. Another one, a bit of old school here, is it's a hot water bottle. You can pop that in your bed before you get in. Just thought I'd mention this as a word of warning. One thing you have got, obviously you're cooking and things like that in the vehicle, that produces heat and keeps things warm. One thing I will probably advise against though is obviously having your rings on to warm the vehicle up. I'm sure people wouldn't do it anyway, but I thought it probably worth just mentioning. Obviously your rings will kick out heat if you've got those on there, so if you're boiling water or making yourself a drink etc, that will provide extra heat into the vehicle, but I would never use these solely for the purpose of heating the vehicle, because obviously if something falls on one of these with the gas hob is on, you've got fire risk and things like that. So that's a definite for me, a definite no, just use those rings for cooking. And finally, on keeping warm, if it's really cold, and I mean really cold, and you've got a problem, you've got no heater etc in your vehicle or something like that, never take any chances with the cold. For example, if it's really bad that's out there and you're stuck somewhere, get yourself somewhere warm that's in the vehicle, outside of the vehicle, pubs, anywhere like that, and get that chill off. Years and years ago I went camping in January, did some hiking. I was camping outside in a tent. The first night wasn't too bad, I was quite cold during the night. The next night, as I was coming to that, I came back to my tent after being out for the day. The tent poles were iced up all over the thing. I was like, no. Enough was enough at that point. And I went and got myself a B&B for the night. I'm sure that wouldn't be the case with one of these. Just bear in mind, obviously, that if you are really cold and you're somewhere that's there, just go and get yourself warmed up, because hypothermia and things like that is very serious thing. And leading on from that, the big thing is that you can always turn the engine on the vehicle. So obviously turning the engine on, even if you're stationary, it takes quite a while for it to heat up, but it will heat up and it will produce heat coming out as a final resort to keeping the vehicle warm. Now I'm sure you guys out there, if you're using the vehicles more than I do, I've got lots of tips as well that's in there as well. So can you please put any tips you've got for keeping warm, things that you do which I haven't mentioned on the video, in the comments box below, and then we can share those with everybody else, and you can keep checking out the comments, because that's what it's really about as well. Is a lot of the tips I get is tips that people have told me, and we had discussions with people as well, so they're not always necessarily my tips, they might be your tips that I'm then telling everybody else. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. As I said, today was about going through tips and things like that we can do to keep ourselves warm in the vehicle. We deliberately haven't gone through any of the systems, so how the heating works etc, because we've got those videos already out there for you, so please go and check those out as well. As normal, if you have liked today's video, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. If you don't subscribe, please subscribe and tick that notification bell so you know whenever we've uploaded again, and we'll see you next time.